In order to understand the impact of AI on the education space, we first have to take a brief little walk down history to understand how we learn now, and how it's fundamentally changed in the past, and how it's changing right now as we speak. So the first step of this process is how information was transmitted back thousands of years ago. We always sat at the feet of the sages. We would listen to the prophets speak, and we would travel great distance to do so. But unless if you had the time and the wherewithal to travel, unless you had the opportunity to be there when the sage is alive, you had no opportunity to learn from the sage. So the next phase happened with the advent of writing. Information was stored away in books, so now it transcended the person who contained the information. Unfortunately, many organizations would squirrel away this knowledge so it was not available to the average person, making it difficult for normal citizens to acquire this knowledge. This brings us to the next phase, when information became publicly available through public libraries. So back in 1833, the first public library was created, and so not only the rich and privileged could have access to the world's information, but the everyman. And this resulted in 100-fold more information transmission than we had before. And this was awesome, but a new revolution was not very far away. In 1991, Congress signed the High Performance Computing Act, which made the private and protected ARPANET into the public internet. And now suddenly, all the information of the world was getting stored into a place that was accessible by all the population of the world. And this was a fundamental change, but it still required a great deal of technical know-how to get to it. The advent of the web browser changed all that, and now with just a few clicks and a few scrolls, you can hyperlink your way around the world. But you still had to know where to go to find this information, so we needed yet one more innovation in order to truly unlock the power of the internet. Google was certainly not the first search engine, but Google was the most powerful and the most popular one. And with various iterations, and it has increased its usability, facts became free. It became simple for people to find the information they wanted from all around the world. But still, you had to go to a computer to get it with the internet. So we needed to have one last innovation, and that was the cell phone. And now all the world's information is available in your pocket wherever you go. You no longer have to travel to a library or have to sit at the seat of a sage to get this information. But yet there is one more revolution that's on the horizon. The internet is only as smart as the people who create information, but does not create information itself. In 1997, the world grandmaster Kasparov was defeated by Deep Blue, an IBM supercomputer. And now suddenly a computer can do things that a human could not do because it learned not just to emulate a computer, but learn how to play chess by itself. It was the first true artificial intelligence applied to a non-trivial domain. But this was a very constrained intelligence. It wasn't general intelligence. When Watson then defeated the two best Jeopardy players of all time using tricky and unconstrained problems, it really woke people up to what the possibilities of AI are. But is this really alive? Alan Turing, a computer scientist from 50 years ago, proposed that if a computer can fool a human into thinking it's more human than actual human, then it is actually alive. And this happened in 2017 with Eugene Goodsman. So now that the Turing test is passed, now that grandmasters have been beaten, now that the best Jeopardy players of all time have been defeated, it's still not released to the general public. But that all changed in 2022 with the advent of ChatGPT. And now this, with Microsoft Copilot, releases the power of artificial intelligence to the everyman with very little effort. It's no longer just a research thing. So what is ChatGPT? Is this huge monster supercomputer that requires thousands and thousands of hours of computing power to do things? Actually not. It could be fit onto a small SD card the size of your thumbnail. And this could easily fit on your phone and requires very little computational power. It's not a matter of if it's going to make it to your cell phone, it's just a matter of when. Now, training this data set is actually very complex and expensive. In fact, it costs hundreds of millions of dollars to train it. However, this graph shows there's basically 100-fold return on investment for companies that are willing to build these large language models. So they're going to get bigger and smarter as time goes on. But now here's the crazy thing. If you'd make the training set 10 times bigger, it becomes 20% smarter. And studies have shown that we're going to increase the IQ of these large language models by 15 points every 2 to 3 years. So it's not going to be very long before they're going to be smarter than the average person. But not just smarter, but also the ability to pick up new tasks, being able to plug in new capabilities, be able to perform math or write code or compose music, or be able to understand images or be able to learn a new foreign language. These things are getting added to these language models at the rate of a couple a day. These new capabilities are being able to plug in at a much higher rate than a human can learn such things. So now you can build your own AI in just a matter of time. But should we? I'm going to harken back to Queen Elizabeth in 1950, who gave a speech that was a little tone deaf. And she was reading for it in the public, and she went to her speechwriter. She says, "Hey, why did you give me such a bad speech?" And the speechwriter responded, I just did what you told me to do, and you gave it. She did not verify the speech that was given her by a speechwriter. So we need to change the paradigm a little bit. I want you to visualize a businesswoman giving a dictation to a secretary. Now, the businesswoman is going to tell the secretary roughly what needs to happen, and then the secretary is going to run off and then compose the letter. The secretary is going to come back and says, "Is this what you had in mind?" And she's going to say, "No, I want you to change this, I want you to update that, and elaborate on this." After several iterations, the business person is satisfied with the letter and signs her name on it. Now the question is, who wrote the letter? Was it the business person or the secretary? It was all the secretary's words, but it was all the business person's ideas. So in other words, the business person managed the letter writing process, unlike Queen Elizabeth. And that's what we need to do. We need to treat this AI as the assistant. We need to treat this AI as a knowledgeable, patient, hardworking assistant, prone to hallucinations and plagiarism. Used correctly, it can vastly increase your productivity and increase the quality of your work. So what are you going to do to incorporate AI into your practice? Let's have a discussion on that.